What would be the impact on your company if you could improve your ability to recruit talent to your organization, particularly in the field? That is the topic of my conversation today with Chip Aldridge of Tallaroo. Tallaroo is a data-driven job advertising platform that reaches the candidates you need to build your essential workforce. We're going to be talking about the mindset shift that construction company owners and leaders need to have in order to be more effective at recruiting the essential workers. And we're going to do so by framing recruiting as a marketing and sales effort and talking about how you need to remove friction in your hiring process in order to make sure that you're not losing people that are interested in working in your organization. And so I'd like you to pay close attention to the insights that Chip shares during this interview, because it's going to help you to improve your hiring process right away. And I know you'll be able to walk away with 2 or 3 things that you can focus on immediately to attract those essential workers to your company. So feel free to share this interview with anyone that you think would benefit from listening to it. Thank you for listening to Construction Genius, and enjoy my interview with Chip. This is Eric Anderton, and you're listening to Construction Genius, a leadership masterclass. Thomas Edison said that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. If you're a construction leader, you know all about the perspiration, and this show is all about the 1% inspiration that you can add to your hard work to help you to improve your leadership. Chip, welcome to Construction Genius.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
A lot of my clients are building warehouses for Amazon at the moment. How has the growth of Amazon impacted the construction industry?
It's a great question. And it seems like 2 things that may be very unrelated, but they actually are very related. Just to give a little bit of background, if you've watched the news recently and they've talked about the employment sector or employment economics, they've talked about how the size of the workforce has shrank since COVID and how it's smaller. As a whole, the workforce has increased since 2019 by 0.4%. That means compared to in the fall of 2019, compared to that time frame, we have only 0.4% more participants in the workforce. But the population's grown by 1.2%. So as a percentage, less people are working. And what's happened is we've seen explosive growth in some employment sectors in a shrinking labor force. So it's pulling away from other sectors. Warehouse, since 2019, the amount of hourly workers in warehouse has grown by 45% in a labor force that has shrank in terms of participation rates. Compare that to construction. Construction has grown 1.4% in just raw number of workers, but job openings in construction have grown 26%. Warehouse is continuing to grow today, and that's just one of the sectors that's pulling away from the blue-collar markets that construction typically recruits from. And it's not just Amazon, it's Chewy, it's Walmart. The American consumer needs product at their doorstep same day or tomorrow. And to do that, we're having to build more and more warehouses, distribution centers to pull from. So this is going to be a continuing trend for construction companies to have to compete for labor against other markets and other segments like warehouse.
You know, it's so interesting because I know in 2008, when the Great Recession hit, a lot of the old school foremen, superintendents, they left the industry and they never returned. And that was the conversation from 2010 to 2018. And then all of a sudden, more people, the employment field, so to speak, the amount of people to draw from construction takes another hit with COVID. What are the best construction companies doing to address this challenge?
Yeah, well, the number one thing they're doing is they're learning that they're not competing with themselves anymore. You're not competing with a construction company down the street, across town. You're competing for workers in completely new segments, and you have to think about what those segments are offering. In the old days, one, there wasn't as much opportunity outside of construction for people with certain skill sets. And 2, there was certainly a pay difference, too. This is a day and age where you can make $18 an hour making burritos at Chipotle. You can make $21 an hour running a cash register at Hobby Lobby, and you're working 40 hours a week and off every Sunday. So what do you do to compete with those industries? And you have to think about wages, number one, but how about lifestyle? There's some simple economics going on here. In economics, we all know that if I find the same product at store B cheaper than at store A, then I'm going to buy it at store B. The same thing happens in the labor market. If I can get the same paycheck by doing less hard work or something that's easier, that's the route I'm going to choose. And what's happened in the job market the last couple of years is we have found all of these new ways to make money that aren't hard. There are people making $60,000 a year driving Uber, right? So we're all of a sudden having to think about how do we recreate ourselves in construction to compete with every gig economy and every blue collar market that's out, didn't used to have the opportunity that it does today. So we have to get creative and think of what are they asking for? Flexibility, the wages. They're still in many construction segments, there's still the rainy day issue. Do I miss a full day's pay, 20% of my weekly pay because of the weather, depending on what segment you're in construction? We have to think about how we address those. How do we make sure people get paid? They have more guaranteed and steady paychecks so that we can compete against these Monday to Friday warehouses and hospitality places and things like Hobby Lobby. How do you do it?
So it's interesting because as you're saying that, and immediately the flexible schedule comes up, and I think of clients that I work with, and during the season, you're expected to be in the office between 6 and 7, and you're going to stay until at least 3, if not 4 or 5 o'clock. And a construction company owner might be saying, Chip, I understand that I'm competing with these different companies that are in easier industries, but if I raise my wages and if I give them more flexibility, that's going to have an impact on the schedule of my jobs. That's going to have an impact on my overhead costs, and therefore it's going to have an impact on the cost to the client. And the client's just going to look at me and they're going to say, I'm not going to pay that. So how do I balance that challenge of economics?
Yeah, that's a difficult question to answer. I will say, though, that it helps you incrementally improve staffing so that you can staff to meet the needs of the market is going to help you. Having to deal with issues around flexibility and building in more PTO or more personal hours is probably a better problem to have than having a 10% vacancy rate within your workforce, because that's just opportunity cost. That's not meeting your schedule. It's going to be a lot easier to meet a schedule by giving people a little bit of flexibility versus just not having enough people to do the job. So I think that we take the eye off the prize a little bit and we look at the barrier and the hurdle and say, that's difficult. I've got to get this job done by next Friday. How do I do that and give people flex time? Well, it's easier to do that than to not have the people to get the job done by next Friday would be the advice I would give.
Okay. So then let's talk about the creative aspects. In your experience, as you've worked with construction companies, what are the most creative construction companies doing? What are the top 3, 4, 5 things that they're really focused on to make the industry more attractive and to get the talent in the door?
Sure. Well, number one, the successful construction companies realize that in the world of talent acquisition, the script has flipped. The workers are interviewing us. We're not interviewing the workers the way that we used to. We don't have 10 people coming in and asking for work for every 1 or 2 open positions. It's the other way around today. And the top recruiting construction companies realize this, and they try to sell themselves. They're marketing themselves. They're letting the candidate interview them, and they're trying to pitch what they have that differentiates them. They talk about their value prop, and they market to a job candidate a lot like companies market their products to consumers. And that's one interesting thing about the essential worker workspace today is that they behave a lot like a consumer. They're out shopping for the best product for the best price, the same way that the job candidate in these segments are shopping for the best companies with the best pay. And it's getting on board with that and doing outbound marketing and positioning yourself as being the best place to work. The other part of that is eliminating any potential friction point in the process to get recruited or to apply for a job. In the old days, if you're a large company, someone wants to apply for a job, well, you give them a link to this application. They have to, a lot of times, sign in, create an account, sign in, spend 30 minutes talking about their past work history and answering questions about what was their GPA in school so they can go and work with a hammer on your job site, things that don't matter. And the companies that are performing well today in that regard they just want basic information and they want to put you on the phone with a recruiter. That's another thing that's been largely missing, right? We have HR departments. We've got one person that answers the phone for all calls in front office. The ones doing it well have someone designated to recruit. And they have a script. They know what to pitch. They know what to talk about, because you do have to recruit in today's world to be competitive. You can't wait for a candidate to come to you and beg you for work anymore, because there are opportunities all around. So are you recruiting? Are you selling yourself? Are you removing friction points? Are you not making people take 30 or 40 minutes to fill out an application? Those are the important things. One other thing that I'll talk about, and this is more out there on the periphery, but on a demographical level, one of the top participants in the workforce in this industry are the Hispanic population. And many American Hispanics, their native language is not English, it's Spanish. When we're doing job ads, are we advertising to them in Spanish or are we doing all English ads? They may be fluent in English, but we have a lot of data that shows that people are more likely to respond to an ad when it's in their native language. And what you'll see is a lot of companies are now doing job ads in Spanish, and they're overperforming in those Hispanic populations on getting labor into their organization because they're meeting the job candidate on their terms. They're speaking in their language and showing that they're welcoming anyone who wants to come and apply. It's the little things like that really start to move the needle when you do all of those things well.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So if you're going to hire someone to be the point of contact for recruiting, you're emphasizing the idea of that being almost a sales position, which is what you're saying. To have someone bilingual in that position, or to have two people, one who speaks, making sure you have at least one person who speaks Spanish, particularly if you're a labor-heavy industry, that's tremendously important. I really like that idea there, Chip. So let's just go back to the outbound marketing idea, because again, this is a mindset shift, right? This is a mindset shift. What are the best construction companies doing in terms of their marketing to attract the right people and then to repel the wrong people from their company?
Sure. Well, one, you'll see it in their advertising. In today's social media world, advertising is cheap. Creative can be expensive, but the means to get ads out and identify the right people. So the means is easy. And what's happening today is you can go out on social media and you can pay a few cents per impression to put your ad in front of relevant people.
Let me just interrupt you there real quick. In your experience, what are the best social media channels for recruiting? Let's just go labor and then recruiting office work, office like PMs and stuff like that.
Yep. It's Meta. So it's Facebook and Instagram. About 75% of your potential work candidates that you can go after have an account on Facebook or Instagram. And you can find them with ads that you can make on your laptop and position yourself in a unique way to just create a name with them so they know who you are. And for companies that have large recruiting budgets, and this is not everyone, but for companies that have these large budgets who can go out and really put a lot into marketing campaigns, they go after the right person by showing ads that because they know you can go to work at Hobby Lobby and make $20 an hour, right? But that's not the guy they want. So they'll show ads that show this boring job of standing on your feet and talking to old ladies every day and selling garland and making burritos. Then they'll show guys having fun on the job site, guys getting in shape. They'll appeal to things like fitness level and things that are important. You don't want to be standing at a cash register getting fat and getting out of shape. What if you're out here getting in shape, getting a tan? They'll appeal to these different things that are interesting to the demographic beyond just the things that are obvious like pay and benefits.
That's really interesting because, again, what you have to do here is you have to put yourself in the shoes of the people that you're looking to attract to your organization. You have to frame things in ways that they understand and ways that they can relate to, again, so that you can attract the right people and then repel the wrong people from the organization. Let me just go back to this idea of a single point of contact. What size company typically, in your experience, has one person who's in charge of recruiting in terms of a construction company? What point does that begin to make sense in terms of overhead and things like that?
Well, I would say that it doesn't have to be one person whose only job is recruiting. I think that one person needs to wear that hat. So it's that person that has the right answers, that person knows how to sell. And that doesn't have to be their 1 40-hour-a-week job that they have. And I think when you think about it in terms of that, then you can get pretty small. So anyone that has a front office of 2 or 3 people that is answering phones and interacting with potential clients, anyone who interacts with a client has the skill set to likely interact with a candidate. Because remember, we're trying to view them the same way and pitch and market and sell in the same way that we do to a client, to a candidate.
So tell me a little bit more about this idea. You mentioned this idea of value proposition, and obviously that's a marketing term. Some people may be familiar with it, some people may not. But how should I craft a value proposition in terms of recruiting people to my organization? How should I go about figuring that out? Tell me what that is first, and then how do I figure it out?
Think of buying mode. So in consumer marketing, when we talk about the consumer, we talk about what motivates them to buy. And people spend a ridiculous amount of money doing studies and trying to figure out, why does someone buy this product versus this product? They want to understand their buying. In today's labor market, we need to understand the buying mode of the job candidate. Wages are available everywhere, and they've all gone up. I won't talk about the Hobby Lobby and Chipotle examples again of how much you can make doing mundane jobs. So you can go to a lot of places and earn money. So the buying mode of the job candidate, you have to find things beyond just the paycheck. And again, you start to evaluate the types of personalities you have in your labor force and what's important to them. I would encourage people, if you have the means to do this, and there are very cheap ways to do this, if you have a sizable workforce, study them and understand what they like, what they're passionate about, what their hobbies are, and then start crafting messaging around how the lifestyle that you give them in this type of role can help improve those other aspects of their life. Fitness is a big one that I talked about, right? And I used to work in truck driver recruiting. And when we would try to do recruitment for flatbed trucking, that's where you have all like the bulldozers and stuff tied on the back. The driver has to get out and do all this work and tie it down so they can never recruit. So we used to do these campaigns appealing to fitness around don't sit in the truck for 11 hours a day. Get out and do something, lose weight, get in shape, improve your longevity, improve your life expectancy. And it was very successful in helping bring in more drivers. I think construction has the opportunity to use similar messaging and bring in people who care about being in shape, people who care about not having to take work home with them every night, like do your job and go home and forget about it until the next day. There's several value props that you can hit on, but I think it starts with understanding who are your best workers and what are they like, what are their personality types, and what do they care about.
Okay, so right there, that's the key insight is who are your best workers? What do they care about? What attracted them to the industry? And really understanding that. So what you would do then is you would bring in your top 3 or 4 guys. And what I would do is I'd be saying, okay, who's my best foreman? Who's my best leadman? Who's my best craftsman? And I'm going to interview those guys and I'm going to ask them, why do you work here? What is it that you love about construction? And then based on what they say, I am then going to craft a message around what they say.
That's right. And get them to speak if they will. So if you can shoot a quick video, put it on the web of your people, trust me, your candidates would much rather hear from someone doing the job than from the manager in the front office who they rarely like anyway, right? So getting your people from all different lines of work, talk about why they love working for you, for your company, what it's brought for you, what it's given you. That usually appeals to a potential job candidate a lot more than just some manager talking about their people. But then you use some of those things you learn about your best people to build your messaging around. And look, hey, the other side of that's true too. We talk about how do we keep the worst people out? And this is true for any industry. I always encourage HR departments or hiring managers to, on exit interviews, which you can't always do this, but you just need a sample size. Ask people why they're leaving. Document the top 2 or 3 reasons people leave your company. When you're interviewing, ask people why they left their last job. If their answers on why they left the last job sound a lot like the answers your people gave you on when they left, that probably means they're going to leave you for the same reason pretty quickly. And that's flight risk. It's probably not someone you want to hire if retention is the goal.
Yeah. I just had the thought that if you're going to go and do the videos on an Instagram video or a TikTok video or something like that, then if you get them shot in Spanish as well as English, that'd be tremendously awesome as well.
Absolutely, because you're going to expand your reach by 20, 25% to potential job candidates who might be interested in working for you.
So let's go back to that idea, because you started talking about getting an idea of why people leave your company and then watching out for those folks when you're interviewing. That immediately popped into my mind, that the cost of recruiting, because if I bring on someone and they don't work out, that obviously is costing me some money. So how much does it really cost to hire a worker in construction?
This is a painful conversation for a lot of hiring managers and construction company owners today. A few years ago, we didn't always have to spend money to recruit people. And when we did have to get to a certain scale and we went to job sites and job boards, we could spend $100 and get a lead. So the answer today is higher. And what that number is really dependent upon a few things. Where you're at, there are highly competitive markets and markets that aren't so competitive. Where's the nearest Amazon warehouse that's just now being built, right? The thing we talked about earlier. And also the skill of who you're recruiting. Are you looking for someone that just needs to have a pulse and can pick up 40 pounds? Or are you looking for someone that actually has a skill set and experience in doing something, in shingling a roof, in framing a building, in working with metal, right? And today, for a skilled worker in a competitive market, you can expect to pay a lot of times over $1,000 in job advertisement to hire one worker. On the bottom end of that, if you just need general labor, but in a competitive market, you can still be paying $100 plus to hire someone. Think about this. In the warehouse market alone, to hire someone that just needs to have a pulse and can pick up 40 pounds in the cities where there's a lot of warehouses, the Amazons and Chewy's and those guys of the world, they're paying $500 to hire one person, just in terms of job advertising. That's not hard costs with orientation and paying recruiters. That's just job advertising. $500 for someone that is just required to be 18 and can pick up stuff. That's what we're competing against a lot of times in the construction industry today. So we have to be mindful of that.
Is there a way to lower cost and maintain quality, or is that just sort of something that is like, that would be easy to say on a podcast, but hard to do in real life?
Sure. I wish I had a magic bullet to do that. I could make a lot of money if I could do that. But I think that the things that we've already talked about in thinking about it in terms of trying to sell job candidates versus waiting for them to come to you, removing the friction points, make it really easy for someone to give you their name and phone number to recruit them versus asking them to fill out an application that takes 30 minutes to do. Those things work to get you more and more candidates. Figure out how you can address concerns that matter today. Inflation is top of mind. If you ever turn on the news, they talk about 8-9% inflation and how the cost of living is outrunning wages. And people ask, how do you address that if you can't give out 10% raises? Well, you communicate about it. I think communication is key in talking about things that are concerning. Imagine if you did a TikTok video you made yourself to be in front of job candidates and you just addressed the elephant in the room. You said, a lot of our workers are dealing with inflation. They're dealing with 10% increases in cost of food and 30% in the cost of fuel. We hear you. We know that. We care about you. Here's what we're doing. Little things around taking meals to the job site, ordering pizza that costs the company hardly anything and taking meals to the job site to help address the increasing cost of food. Just those little things and the over communication of the big issues you're aware of do nothing but help you in both retention and recruiting, because people are looking for wages, they're looking for flexibility. They're also looking for someone that actually, for lack of a better phrase, gives a damn about the people that work for them. And so how do we give a damn about the people who work for and make sure that job candidates know that?
Okay, that's excellent. Now, let me just hit one more time on this idea of the friction points. What are the main friction points that you see construction companies allowing in their recruiting process that hinders them?
Yeah, it's the application. So small guys, there's a lot of them. And I did a little bit of research on this yesterday just to see how much this still existed. But for a lot of the small guys who actually have an application, it's a PDF that you print off and you scan or fax back. In today's world, trying to print off an application and write all this stuff and send it back, that's just a no-go. They're going to bounce every time. And for the bigger ones, it's the applications that have the login wall where you have to actually create an account, log into it, and fill out all these different fields. They're going to bounce every time. You need 2 or 3 qualifying questions, and you need their contact information. And the biggest thing is you've got to reach out to them very quickly. There's no shelf life in today's world of competition out there. You can't wait 2 or 3 days to reach out to a job candidate. When someone sends you their name and says, hey, I'd love to talk, you need to call them within an hour if you can. Every hour it sits there, you're going to lower the likelihood you reach out. Those are friction points that are easy to address. Think about getting someone on the phone to recruit versus getting applicants, and make sure they only have to spend a minute or two to get in contact with you and let you know that they're interested in working with you.
That's a key insight right there, particularly for labor workforces, is getting on the phone quickly when someone calls. This whole idea of turning it into a marketing effort, a sales effort, almost a customer service effort, just like if one of your clients called you with an issue on a job site and you'd call them right back. Do the same thing when you're recruiting people.
Right. And historically, we don't always prioritize that, right? Especially if you're the person wearing 5 hats, then you're going to talk to your clients, get the job done. You're going to call them back at 8 o'clock at night when they're with their family and they may not answer. We do have to completely rethink that. That person is an opportunity for a new client because you can't get the job done without those workers today. And there's a shortage. They're a commodity. And how do I make sure I have enough? Well, you've got to look at them the same way you look at clients. And the same friction you remove for your clients, you remove for your job candidates.
Summarize here, Chip, and you've been really generous with your time. I'm looking at my recruiting efforts. I'm a construction company owner. Let's say I'm emphasizing the field because that's what we've been really emphasizing in this discussion. And I want to improve my field recruitment 1, 2, 3, 4, 5% in the next 90 days. Give us 3 action items and feel free to summarize some of the stuff that you've already said that I need to take right away to improve my recruiting efforts.
Sure. I'll summarize 2 of the things that I already said, and I'll give you a third category that's a little bit new. So number 1, market your company to the job candidate the same way you market to a client. Cheap things or things that are free, do Facebook videos, TikTok videos, market your company. Reduce friction. Make sure it's really easy for someone to get in contact with you. It's not hard. If someone calls, you can answer. If someone emails, you can reply quickly. And if there's an application process, make sure it's 5, 6, 8 fields and no longer than that. And the third one that we haven't talked about is weaponize your current workers to be your recruiters. In some industries, it's very common now to pay referral fees, and they can be quite lucrative. Imagine if you were paying a $500 bonus to every employee who brought in a new laborer. Imagine if you paid them $500 when they brought them in and $500 if they stayed for 6 months. So there's a retention bonus associated with it too. If you've got 10 workers, then all of a sudden you've increased your outreach tenfold by weaponizing them. And, the referrals are worth it because even if $500 is more, and that's an arbitrary number, but let's say it's 500. Even if that's more than what it would typically cost to bring in someone, that 500 is also paying for retention. For those current workers who are dealing with things like inflation, the things we talked about earlier, if you could put more money in their pocket, that's only going to help you retain workers at the same time you're recruiting workers as well.
Excellent. So Chip, Talroo and what you guys do with construction companies.
Yeah, Talroo is the second largest job search engine on the web. We power 2 billion job searches every single month. So, and we specialize mostly in the blue collar, or what we call the essential worker space today. So construction markets, truck drivers, warehouse, hospitality, frontline healthcare, things like that. So we help a myriad of companies, thousands and thousands of companies fill needs. We use technology, and I won't get into all the buzzwords like AI and machine learning, but basically we take a programmatic approach. And what that means is that with Talroo, when you run a job ad or a job posting, we're not putting your ad in one particular place. It's across the web in thousands of places on thousands of job search sites. So we like to say that we put your job ad in front of the high intent job seeker wherever he is, at the right place at the right time. And we differentiate ourselves a little bit from the rest of the industry because we do it based off of a target cost. So it's not just about, hey, pay me money and I'm going to put your job out there, but we're trying to get you leads at a certain cost. And so everything that we do is optimizing to the cost per lead or the cost per application of construction candidate that you dictate to us. So it's all cost-based. We don't set hard lines on how much you have to spend or how little you have to spend. We're going to optimize to the cost per application that you get.
So let me ask you about that real quick. So if, let's say I'm a construction company and I really don't know what my cost is or what it should be, how do you help someone figure that out?
Sure. I've got great benchmark data. We have an insights report that shows by region, by the city you're in, how many job searchers are there looking for construction labor in your market in each given month? What are the trends? Is it going up or down? How many job postings are there? Is it going up or down? And I also have what the average cost per leads are, cost per applications are in each of those markets. So we can start with benchmark data and assess from there. Sometimes we'll look at things a little more detailed and say, well, how competitive are you? Are you paying more than everyone else or less or kind of in the middle? And based on that, we might recommend you spend a little more or a little less than what the averages show us. So if you're really competitive, you pay great, then we're going to assume that your cost pers are probably going to be better than what the average is, and we're going to recommend less budget. And the vice is also true.
Excellent. So how can people get in touch with you guys if they want to check you out?
Yeah, they can go to talroo.com and give us a quick email. But Eric, I don't know if you ever have an info up on the show, but I will make sure that you have my contact info, my email address to give your audience stuff they want to reach out.
No, in the show notes, we'll put the link to your website and your contact information, and we'll make sure everyone can get in touch with you if they'd like to do that.
Yes, please do. Would love to help.
Awesome. And Chip, you're out in Tennessee, right?
Chattanooga, Tennessee. That's right.
Chattanooga. Okay, so I'm in Chattanooga. Let's say I'm there. What's the one restaurant I need to hit in Chattanooga besides Chili's?
Oh, it's still relatively new. I've been here about 2.5 years, and my first year here, nothing was open because it was 2020 and everything was still to go. I think Main Street Meats is probably what I'd recommend if you're in Chattanooga and you didn't have a lot of time, but you wanted something unique to the area. They're a butcher shop and a restaurant. So the cut of meat you get was literally cut by a butcher a few minutes before. It's incredibly fresh, homemade, excellent food, and right in downtown in the restaurant and bar district.
Beautiful. I just pulled up the website. We'll put a link in the show notes. If you happen to be in Chattanooga, check out Main Street Meats. Chip, I appreciate your time. I know I threw you the curveball with the restaurant question there at the end, but I appreciate you joining us here today on Construction Genius.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to my interview with Chip today. Hope you got some takeaways. My biggest takeaway is for construction companies, shoot some videos in Spanish of your workers in the field who love working for you and get those out on the social media platforms. Use them for your recruiting. And the other one is talk to your workers in the field. Find out why they work for your company. Use their specific language in your advertising. And seriously consider doing advertising on Facebook, on Instagram, in order to recruit people. You can even look into TikTok if you'd like. But advertising can be a very effective and cost-effective way to recruit talent to your organization. Feel free to check out Talroo on the web at talroo.com. If you have any questions about this episode, you can reach out to me, of course. And thank you for listening to Construction Genius.